does it matter what kind of purpose a person decides to live
Yes.
with? Particularly, we're sort of creating our own purpose.
Well, this idea that I was talking about, hedonic purposes, where we might desire material goods. In fact, there's a wonderful study that was done about 10 years ago looking at college seniors. They followed them for 2 years after, but first they asked them, what matters to you? What are the things that are important in your life? And about half of them said, yeah, I want to make a lot of money, and I want to be popular, and I want to be attractive, and all these very hedonic kinds of purposes. And then the other group said, I care about community, social interactions, things like that. They followed them. 2 years later, they found that the group who had the more eudaimonic or transcending purpose had more well-being, whereas the group who had more hedonic purpose, by the way, both of them achieved their goals. The hedonic purpose, people made more money. They, et cetera. But they had far more ill-being, both physically and mentally. So when we talk about well-being, we have to be very careful about the kinds of purposes we pick. Yeah.
Great.
Can I respond to that?
Of course.
So this would be an example of when I hear that, the writer of the book of Ecclesiastes, for some of you, you may be aware that there's an Old Testament and a New Testament with the Hebrew Bible, and there's the book of Ecclesiastes, and in the 3rd chapter, in the 10th verse, the writer says, everything will become beautiful in its time. He makes all things beautiful in its time, for he has placed eternity in their hearts. And the Hebrew for the word eternity is not just referring to a measurement of time, it's referring to a measurement of the quality of life that God lives. This notion that when we talk about purpose, we would say, when you look at 3-year-olds, you don't have to train them to do this. 3-year-olds at some point, anybody here have had 3-year-olds in your house? This is sometimes, they drive you crazy. But when they're not driving you crazy, they will run into, you've had 3-year-old, they run into your kitchen and they're holding things. And they've made something for you. Yes? And they give it to you and they expect you to put it on your refrigerator and charge money to the neighbors to have them come see it. Because they think this is so beautiful. They make stuff. Because this is what we are made to do. You come here and you create things as students. You're creating, prolifically creating things.
As are you.
And this notion of longing, this notion of eternity, is expressed in this deep longing for us to make artifacts of beauty and goodness in the world, including relationships, including nuclear energy power plants, including gardens, including studies that help us learn how purpose is such a big deal for us. And so I think I would suggest that, of course, it would make sense that people who are paying attention to eudaimonic purpose are going to live more effectively in the same way that we would say people who are going to exercise in ways that the body is made to be exercised are also going to flourish more effectively. That's a different question than asking the question, why is the person on the earth to flourish eudaimonically and exercise physiologically in the first place? That's a different set of questions altogether. And we would suggest those are questions that the relationship with Jesus does claim to answer, that we have a God who has so loved us that he wants us to be people of goodness and beauty who have purpose, who are repairing ruptures, even are learning to forgive those people who have treated us badly, but that we can't do this by ourselves, which is why we need professors like you to help us do this.